All right, everybody, we are back. We are back. We are back. It is 2024. We are shooting this brand new software, brand new mic, brand new lighting, everything like that. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of this and how it's looking to everybody. Now, with this new software, what we're doing is we're putting everything through the software into YouTube and the 100 proof page. So hopefully the comments will come in real time with everything on the software as well as everybody on Facebook with it. So if everybody could just let me know how this is going tonight. I am running this solo tonight. We got a couple things going on, got a couple things here on the bar to talk about tonight. I'm kind of running a little solo show because I wanted to test out the software before Nate came back on next week with this. So that's kind of where I'm at tonight with it. Um, so thank you guys very much for tuning in and I appreciate all the views. Like always, drop your comments and questions down below and we will pick them apart. So I apologize for being late tonight. My wife's off at an event with some of her friends doing a sip and paint, but my wife's obviously not sipping, so she's just painting. Um, so I'm down here tonight. Got a couple projects I'm working on, some planning I'm doing. We're going to talk about that tonight on the show and kind of let the conversation roll from there with everybody's questions and everything like that. So, a little bit of an itinerary tonight, but like I said, I'm trying to make sure everything's going good with the new software and the streaming and all that stuff. Mostly is kind of the rough plan for the show tonight. So if anybody can give me the feedback on that and let me know, it's going for the first time through the 100 proof page, my personal page, and obviously the YouTube channel as well. So trying to pick that apart and work out the bugs and kinks for next week, if there are any. So, what do we have going on and coming up? A lot of stuff. We are fresh into January. Property visits coming up and consulting for myself. Me and Nate talked last episode on some of the projects that we have coming up on a piece of property that we're working on together. We did our first card pull tonight, or not tonight, but we did our first card pull this past weekend on our new permission piece, and it's looking pretty good. Nothing crazy out of the ordinary or whatever, but some really nice 2.5, and we might even have one 3.5-year-old that looks like he made it through season over there on that piece. So really cool. We have no history with the piece whatsoever. Just a really cool piece in 8J that we're looking at hunting this year. So really looking forward to that with Nate going forward. It's a different town than I've ever hunted, which is cool. We'll kind of leave it at that and go from there with it. Bo Hump, first comment in tonight, says, love the old school camo tonight. Thanks, Bo. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was actually, like I said, had to do a little bit of housekeeping tonight. Had to go get chicken scratch for the birds because we're running low. Trying to keep them fed and everything like that. So that dog food tonight. I made my nice little rounds, running errands tonight to make sure everything was good with the show going forward tonight. And then I apologize again for being late with all that running around, feeding the dogs, handling all the evening chores. Got the late start, and I had to tune in for the beginning of the Exodus Outdoor, which is a great little topic for the first topic of the night for the show. Exodus Outdoor is just announcing their drop of the Rival A5 cell camera. Now, I couldn't stick around for the whole show, but I did share the link over to it on my page so you guys can check that out after this episode or tune in live to it as well. That's going on right now, so I'm unfortunately missing that. But this is my Exodus that I just got back. This is a Lift 2, 5-year warranty, no BS. You send it to them, whatever issue it has. I've sent 3 cameras now to them, sends them right back. Or if for whatever reason I had one with a tree fall on it, they replaced the camera for me. So I can't say enough about Exodus. Met Chad this past year down at the Wellsville NDA branch. Archery shoot and everything like that. Those guys were down there in the rain. I unfortunately wasn't shooting because of tearing my bicep last year, but I got to meet Chad and some of the guys from Exodus, which was really cool. And they even have a camera of mine that's out of warranty, the 5-year no BS warranty, and they're actually going to fix it for miscellaneous parts and costs with that. So yeah, it's really cool going forward with it. So definitely recommend the Exodus stuff. I'm really looking forward to, and I'm going to watch back the episode with them that they're doing live right now, because I'm hoping they have a non-cellular sender. I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence about jumping into that cell camera game and everything like that. But definitely I'm looking maybe into getting one of those A5s, and who knows, maybe they're going to draw me as one of the random winners on that giveaway tonight. So we'll see. Bo says video and sound is really good. Thank you. Yeah, we've been trying to get this better since we had some issues and folks commented on that. Trying to make it a better product for everybody out there. And then looking forward as platform. And that's the other reason for using the software, is we can download the right file type to put into that. So we're trying. I mean, me and Nate are a little technologically illiterate, but we're trying to learn and get it figured out best we can. Billy Harvey comments in, says, Brother Dallas and I were discussing killing buck thorn today. What's your thoughts on juice to try to kill it by stump spraying it? That's a good question, Bill. Love the habitat questions. So with the buckthorn, I've had a lot of success just flush cutting it with the buckthorn and then letting it resprout. And they actually have seen a lot of deer browse on that fresh resprout and stump sprouts, kind of tying that into some of the data that came out of Mississippi State University about the flush of nutrients that stump cut trees and shrubs have. I've had a lot of increased browse on that buckthorn. So, but for juice and stuff like that, as per label, you can use stuff like glyphosate. I believe specific brands have a ratio. You can use like a 1-to-1 ratio, chemical to water. I've used that in the past on buckthorn. I have foliar sprayed it as well in the fall time frame when it's still green and everything else is kind of dying back. And then you can use other stuff like triclopure and some of those other chemicals. Follow your label instructions for mixing on that. And then Craig Harper has a really good cocktail for spray, and I can get that over to you, Bill. That's in the Native Field Management and Wildlife Food Plots book by Craig Harper. And if you don't have one of them, I would highly recommend one of them. Actually, 2 seconds. I love it when my library now is kind of just over here off to the side. We're going to do a video tour of the bar setup and the podcast setup and kind of how we've kind of wrapped it around. We'll obviously cover the serial killer board again in an upcoming episode on probably the YouTube page and maybe one of the podcasts. But this book right here has an excellent, this is not my dog-eared copy. So it's in this book. So, yeah, but that's what I would recommend. That's one that I've seen the best success with, for a cocktail with that for stump killing plants. But if you do have some root connection or roots that have grown together under the soil, you can get some cross contamination kill from doing that basal treatment. And you have to be really careful that it's not dripping around when you're out there as well. Bo says, all I have run is Exodus cameras. I'm having some issues with the solar panels as we speak. I haven't had any ones that I've run on solar panels or an external power source. All of mine have been batteries. I use the Rivax from Lowe's. I've seemed to have the best success with those. I've tried to buy lithiums and other stuff off Amazon. I think it's just not enough reliable vendors to have a good quality battery come in. Unfortunately, some of them are expired or out of date, even though it says that they're non-expired in the ad or whatever. I've had some come in that are 1 or 2 years past expiration and just having kind of spotty success with those. So the Rivax from Lowe's and the big value packs Once in a while, they do put them on sale, and I messed up. I should have bought their entire stock the one day. Could have bought a 60 count for $12. Didn't even realize I went in there, grabbed 260 packs, just normal. Swiped the card, wasn't paying attention, and got home later that night and was starting to do it, pulling stuff out of my pockets, and realized that I only paid $12 a piece for those 60 counts. So I messed up. I should have bought a lifetime supply of those Ryvacs, but I've had real good success with them. Exodus non-cellular SD cameras coming out in the next 2 weeks. That's awesome, Bo. Thanks for the heads up. You always got the inside scoop on what's going on. Definitely looking forward to that. Billy says Harper Cocktail is expensive. Looking for a poor man's solution. Yeah, so it is. It can be expensive, but with all things, sometimes the quality is worth it. A poor man's solution would be just cut it and let the deer eat it. That's the thing. But other than that, I would say 1-to-1 Gly is pretty good. I would definitely say when that plant is actively starting to send up shoots and maybe not spray it. I would cut it and spray it once it's in the growing season and not in the dormant season, because glyphosate needs to be taken through the plant. I would say some of that will be timing related. That's probably going to be your cheapest option, is a 1-to-1 Gly to water solution, and then spraying it specifically on the cut stumps during the growing season. And I mean, once buds emerge and leaves start to emerge. So some areas that you're looking at just cutting it for somewhat removal, pockets of it, stuff like that. Maybe that's some stuff you do now in the wintertime. And then once it's growing, when that plant's really taking up and down stuff through that transportation area in the bark and the cambium layer and all that stuff, that's when you're going to have better success killing the stuff that you've cut. Not during this dormant season. Some of the Craig Harper cocktails and stuff like that are more better suited for dormant season treatment. So you just have to match the tool to what you're trying to do with that. A few spots we want to kill it, but we agree on the cover and browse benefits. It can have its place, especially if it's a large amount of it. Working on pockets and stuff like that, trying to establish little pocket holes in it, leave some for cover. I've cut a bunch down and used it for bunny, rabbit tat, or whatever you want to call it. Bunny brush piles. There's the tongue twister. I've piled it up in some bedding areas for rabbit habitat and stuff like that. And maybe making like a blocked kind of third of an exit route out of a bedding area or something like that I've done. Found some good success with that. Moving it around and piling it up. So, yeah, buckthorn can have its place, but you got to keep it kind of in check too at the same time. I'm going to pop over to the StreamYard. Just checking out, making sure. Hopefully this is working. I don't know if somebody could pop over to the 100 Proof page and let me know. I'm sure I could do it too on my phone while I'm getting the downtime, but we got some good comments rolling in, so we're going to keep rolling with it. Billy says, I'm having trouble with the solar panel on my Exodus, but I think it's more. Oh, lost it. I think it's more because of lack of sunlight. Could definitely be. Definitely got to face some southeast facing. That might change kind of seasonally. Then Bo comments in. I'm just going to kind of tail on that. Billy comment. Bo commented back to you, says, I had to send the solar panel back to Exodus, talking to the person on the phone. I think there's an issue with the newer solar panels that they got this year. I'm also having an issue with one of the solar panels right now also. So maybe it's something where they got a bad batch of them. Unfortunately, it does happen with any kind of products and sourcing once in a while, even though they test them out. That was one of the things that I was talking with Chad about, is why some of this stuff has been delayed so much is because of some of the testing and some of the lack of consistency coming back with some of the products, is why some of this stuff has been delayed so far to getting some of this new stuff to market. So that's something to definitely look out for. But the one thing with Exodus is I will say that they stand by their stuff 110%. This one, like I said, still 5-year under warranty. But one of the ones I sent back actually had been out there for so long that it had bleached out almost clear white, and I had painted it with a little can of paint from Lowe's, painted it black so it blended in or whatever a little bit better, and then traced on some little branching and stuff like that. So using the max ability of my artistical skills to make a little custom camo one. This isn't one of them, but behind them, and even the ones that are out of warranty, they will fix them. All you have to do is cover miscellaneous parts and labor, and they will spec that out to you and let you know. So let me see here. Bill's comment with solar panel. Bo Hunt, I want to make sure I don't miss anybody tonight. Bo says, Ben, have you had any experience with chicory? Thinking about adding it to some of my clover plots. Yeah, the 100 proof clover mix. Forget what Nate called it last episode, but I like the name that Nate dropped on it. Does have a clover in it as well. The one thing I found out about clover, though, or it's not clover, sorry, chicory in that clover blend that I'm working on is chicory is highly favored by field mice. So my entire stock of chicory right now, unfortunately, I have to throw out or use on my own top sowing of my plots, just because the mice decided to get into it and basically ravage my whole supply. Just the chicory, they didn't touch the dino or any of the other clovers that I had, and that's my fault for not having them in a nice sealed container. I need to get over to my folks now that the snow's broken and get down back and grab some of the weatherproof tubs that we have so I can start storing up some of the seed better to keep the mice and vermin and all that other stuff out of it. But chicory, I love chicory going into the clover plots. My ratio right now into the mix, I think, is 23%. I'd have to double check it. 23% volume by weight. So that's my percentage in my mix of it. But I think it can have a definite place in there. It's a little bit more drought tolerant for some of those summer months. And the times that I plant clover and perennial type plots is typically frost seeded into a brassica plot, maybe an existing clover plot, or mud seeded, whatever you want to call it, or a fall plant with a cereal grain. I don't really like the spring plant clover because they don't have a well enough root system established. You have a lot of weeds coming out in that springtime and then summertime that you have to compete with multi-seasons of weeds going forward. So that's why I typically lean toward a fall plant. Or if I had done my chemical control with that past fall planting and I have that crop, coming out of term, then I will frost seed or mud seed my clover or my chicories into those plots if it's time to start rotating those out. So very good question, Bo, for the chicory. But yeah, I think it definitely has a great place on it. Dave says, the area you told me to hinge cut for bedding a year ago has 6 beds in it last Saturday, and you can see where the deer are browsing on the chutes. So effing excited. Thank you, Dave. Love to hear it. Thank you very much for letting me know. Actually have to get out that way the day after I wrapped up, or not the day after, the evening after I wrapped up the visit with you. I was actually able to go see my uncle's house over there, and he's interested in having me do some contractor work for him type stuff. So I'm probably going to be out that way, and I would love to check it out and go over a couple things with you and see how stuff's going with you, Dave. So definitely looking forward to that, and I probably owe you a few whiskey samples as well. So, but love to hear that that the bedding's working out perfect. I'm glad that layout and that design is coming into place for you. Definitely love it. So, quick little thing. So, yeah, and I think my uncle's was only like 10 or 12 minutes away from your piece, which was really cool. So I can hopefully kind of tie the two together. We'll see. I got to do a little bit of scheduling, and hopefully this snow doesn't mess with stuff too bad. Let me see. I'm just doing a little bit of checking on the page. Look at that. Not too bad. Oh, wow. The stream looks really nice. I'm just doing a little bit of. Don't mind me talking on the other end of the line. I was just checking out, making sure that was streaming. So the stream is working over to the YouTube channel, which is perfect. We'll see. Let me check out the 100 proof, because supposedly it's going to the 100 proof page as well. And that one's not linked up. Like I said, working out the kinks, but that's why I wanted to make sure that I was on the main Facebook with that. So Dave said would definitely love to have you out when you're in the area. Yeah, Dave, I'll keep you posted on it. I got to try to touch base with him. He's a way bigger YouTube guy than me. I got to pick his brain. Maybe I'll make a full day out of it between the two things. And I got to pick his brain on some of the stuff, actually the streaming software that I'm using now to broadcast this to YouTube and to hold over the stream file so I can put it on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, one of these major podcast networks was recommended from this streaming service. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, would definitely love to catch up with you, Dave, for sure. So unfortunately, let me see here. Oh. Bear with me. It might be live now. I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to figure this out as I go with it. We're trying to figure it out. No promises, guys. So what else do we have on the agenda tonight? We talked about Exodus and their new camera announcement tonight. Bo commented in and said that they're going to be dropping their new SD card. That's my jam. I mean, Curly was a regular on this. I got so many pictures of that buck on those cameras over the last couple years that I want to switch. I wanted to switch over primarily. Well, I am primarily on Exodus, but I wanted to switch over almost exclusively to Exodus, and they don't pay me a cent or give me anything but great customer service. So I just like to, support them and support a consumer-based direct company. And again, it works, and I'll tell you that it works, and that's why I've stuck with them. The other things that I run, and I'll just throw them out there, is I run covert cameras because they have a very good lasting rate too. Don't have that 5-year no BS warranty, but I don't think any other camera in the industry does for that. I had a Bushnell, but that crapped out, and then I had a couple Moultries that did pretty good for me, and they're still kind of running, so we'll see with it. But yeah, other than that, the Exoduses have been my main camera, and I try to buy a couple a year. Back when they were doing the Lift 2s, even got a Lift 2 from a buddy of mine who was getting out of doing some hunting, and he had a Lift 2 that I recommended to him, and it works just fine and dandy. So definitely happy about that as well. Bo's comment comes in, says ATA show starts tomorrow. Love to see all the new gear coming out this year. Yeah, definitely there's some stuff on the market. I haven't heard of anything really new or groundbreaking other than the Exodus stuff right off. ATA show and stuff like that. And I don't get an invite. I'm not that big into the industry or whatever, so to speak. So I've never attended one. QDMA National Convention I've been to twice, and back when it was QDMA, back when they used to do the national convention, I was at that one twice, and that's kind of the closest I've come to like an ATA show type of that. So, but yeah, there's some new stuff that comes out every year, which is kind of neat and cool. But I like some of my old staples, and once in a while I'll try some new stuff and see how it works out. But yeah, it's definitely kind of neat to see where the industry goes and where technology and people's creativity goes with products. Nick says, what's your thoughts of hinge cutting inside a stand of red pine that has shit trees mixed in? All right. I like this. Let's unpack this bit by bit with it. So I would say looking at first what's obviously, and this is anybody that's watched my stuff enough, comes back to access with any type improvement that you have with that. It has to fit into that plan for that property. And for that hinge cutting inside a pocket of red pine, first and foremost, I would say, what is your goal with the cut inside of that? And then, I know it's tough to give that elevator pitch in a comment to try to lay out a whole scenario, but I would say if you want hinge cuts to survive the hinge cutting process, first thing you're going to have to do is give them adequate sunlight. So you're going to have to remove some of the overstory canopy of pines. Now, with that being said, pines are not typically a tree I would recommend to hinge cut. and some of the other trees that grow up in pines might also not be something I recommend to hinge cut as well. Buckthorn do not hinge cut if those are in there. I know Billy was talking about buckthorn earlier. Buckthorns typically don't hinge cut very well. Neither do some of the stuff like box elder. Sometimes can be pretty soft wooded, as well as like evergreen pine species, spruce, firs. They don't hinge really well. Willows don't hinge very well usually. Um, and then looking at your seasonability of your cutting, if you're cutting right now and we haven't been at cold, and I mean you got to get down in the low teens to have sapwood freeze on some of these tree species, where hinge cutting becomes dangerous. Um, so I would say the goal of your cut, Nick, should reflect how you attack that. First would be to remove canopy. And then if you're saying shit trees, if it is a mix of stuff that's going to be maybe more sour soil tolerant, we'll call it, stuff like a buckthorn, honeysuckle mix. You might have maybe some box elder thrown in there, maybe a couple cherries that kind of popped up when that first hit the ground, when that was planted, if there was a planted red pine stand. So a lot of that stuff is stuff that you have to look at too, is what the species are you're cutting and what your goals on that property are in the future as well. But I think if it is to create thick cover and it works to your overall property thing, I would say before you start firing up a chainsaw, I would take a step back and make sure that that's going to fit your overall layout and design of your property and the way that that's going to flow and function for you before I would make any major changes like cutting timber. And the other thing that I definitely would recommend to folks is getting a good book, whether this one's not really a good example. This one doesn't give a lot of trees. Stand by. This is super convenient with the library being right next to my bar now. Nice little reading nook in the corner. This one right here, Harlow's Tree Guide. Sorry. Trees of Eastern and Central United States and Canada. This one's a really good book. This one doesn't have color in this one. This is my copy from college that I had. Ben Williams 2012, if you're wondering. So that one's been in the woods with me a lot. But I would definitely say being able to identify the trees you're cutting or getting a good feel for the trees that you're cutting or in your woodlot. I challenge everybody to know the top 5 common trees and the top 5 common shrubs on their property when I'm talking to clients. Typically, that comes up usually in the conversation. Sometimes it gets kind of, passed by, but what I want to talk to folks about is making sure you can identify those commonly occurring things on your property. So you can look at, oh, I have a lot of this. Is this good or is this bad? And that can give you a good base mark or a barometer for where you go with your management. But I would definitely say knowing your tree species is a must. This one's really good from Craig Harper on your native habitat plants. This thing is a Bible. This is not my field version. This is my, I got 3 of those. One that's signed by Craig, one that's beat up and in the woods with me a lot, and then this one's kind of my office copy or whatever you want to call it. Bunch of different ones of that. So definitely identifying what you have on your property and what you're cutting is paramount, and making sure that fits with your goals on a piece of property. StreamYard. So we are actually, it's working out good. It can let me see what's going on with everything over there, and we'll see maybe next week we'll try to put all 3 of those outlets, we'll call them, on the StreamYard app service, whatever you want to call it, to project those out there going forward with it. So Bosa has been hearing varying opinions on how wide your deer travel corridor should be. What width do you recommend? What the land and what the habitat will give you. If somebody's kind of saying that you have to have them 20 foot wide, or 10-foot wide or 200-foot wide or whatever you want to talk about, with a specific width. The biggest thing that deer want is escape cover and exit cover out of these travel corridors. Now, travel corridors, when I'm trying to build them for folks, we're building them on benches, on spurs of a ridge, and then dropping down through a saddle. You're basically adding other improvements, we'll call that, with the cutting or the travel corridor. You're making that improvement in an area where deer already naturally want to travel. A ridge line, a saddle, like we said, a bench that wraps around a hill where you got that little step in that hillside, and working that corridor into that. And then maybe where you have a nice flat on that bench, maybe that's where you knock in a couple, half dozen, 2 dozen trees, whatever it is, depending on the size of the flat on that bench part. And then you can have little bedding pockets on this bench. Now, again, as long as this works into how you lay out and design your property, that's the big key takeaway with all this. Is think about it is if you were on that property and you know where you have to access it, whether that's a right of way or a different road or a different wind or whatever it might be, think about that critically. If there's a deer in that spot and I want to get to stand A over here, will that work? Yeah, it works. If I have a southeast wind, I can get to this spot here without deer hearing, seeing, or all three of those. And if you can say that it's only 2 or 3 of those, it doesn't work. Especially if you set it up for a specific wind stand, that's fine. I love setting up specific stand spots for specific winds. That works great. However, when you get into that spot and you make this bedding, we'll say right here behind my laptop screen because it's behind cover, but you have that stand location out here, trail camera. Look at this. Setting it up like a little action figure set. Stand location here, camera here, travel corridor coming around through behind and into bedding. Nice little setup, but if you don't have that right crosswind where you can blow it out over a ravine drop of a bottom, or maybe over the top of their head in the morning with a thermal rise or something that makes that spot not work, and maybe it's not right here next to bedding. Maybe we want to be on this end of the movement. Maybe we want to be on this side of the movement. All of this you have to think about critically when you're setting up and trying to design these properties. And don't look at necessarily where the most sign is necessarily. You let the lay of the land and the way that everything lays out on that property and where you can put the stands effectively make your decisions on the improvements and how you make those improvements. If you're working on and I've seen it, where you're getting some of that steep southern tier, eastern New York, northern New York kind of hills. I mean, around here we call them hills. Over there they just call them nothing. But you get into some of those steep hill faces out there in southern tier, eastern Catskills, southern foothills of the Adirondacks, stuff like that. Your bench might be as wide as my bar, literally. And what I would do with that is lay trees off adjacent to that, to encourage movement. That's probably going to be where they're going to walk and utilize anyway. That's an extreme example. And then maybe if you have some of those kind of parallel little fingers that go down in, again, looking at the whole thing, all you're doing when you're doing habitat work is making your road construction work where you want the bottlenecks to happen. And you want the bottlenecks to happen where you have those thought out stands that you can enter and exit appropriately with the right wind to get in there to make that ambush spot perfect. Now, again, some of these spots, and that's where some people might get discouraged on them, might be you're only seeing 1 to 3 deer or whatever it might be a sit. However, some of those spots, like the morning I shot Curly, only deer I saw out of that location that morning. Now, had some Wolf's recent information. He'd been there the last few mornings, right around daybreak, coming through that spot, probably going up into a bedding area north of me, which is the direction he was headed that morning. and I had to watch him until my phone started going off for the Magic shooting hour to start with him. Had a little bit of most recent information, more out of the last 6 mornings he'd been up in there, and he was on a 1-year rule for that spot already, transitioning back into that part of the property. And I was able to have a good stand location with the right wind to get in there, and a little bit of luck tied in with a 1 year and a good stand location. And you can have some magic happen with those spots too. Nick says, is ironwood good to hinge cut? We have a lot of that 2 to 10 inch diameter inside of fairly mature hardwoods with beech, cherry, maple, and ash. Ironwood can be a good candidate to hinge cut. Some people call it muscle wood because it kind of looks like that muscly kind of forearm looking, muscle texture kind of bark. Can be really hard, so you can get some dull chains with cutting that a lot today. In a daily basis. So yeah, you can cut ironwood. Some people call ironwood hop hornbeam, which has a dandruffy bark. So ironwood is kind of used as a catch-all for those 2 type species. Musclewood or typical ironwood, blue beech, sometimes it's called, looks like almost like a bodybuilder's flexed forearm, where you get that kind of that definition, I guess I would say, to the bark. And then hop hornbeam would be the dandruff. I do this to people. I said, rub it, and if it starts falling off like dandruff, that's a hop hornbeam. Some of those are kept around for species like grouse that feed on the seed pods. For the hop hornbeam is sometimes kept, but you could definitely cut those and use those for horizontal structure cover maybe. But what you're going to get the most bang for your buck out, instead of going into a primarily overstoried woods and cutting everything in that not even codominant range, but that definite subordinate or understory range in your timber, it's not going to have enough sunlight to get much benefit. Whereas if you can sacrifice fully formed maple or ash that are dying out, like Bo's comment says, knock a nice hole in canopy, you could do what 10 of those ironwoods, getting hinge cut would do just by dropping one specific tree. And then you could lay some in there adjacent to it, bed up against. And what a lot of people don't do is when I'm out there doing habitat work and cutting, and I'll talk about this in some videos this year. I'm going to try to get some more better quality content out for folks on YouTube with this. Is I get down, and instead of standing straight up like people do, I get down and I will I'll be on my knees after I get done cutting a spot, and I'll look at it. And what deer I've noticed kind of like is that ability that once they're down knee level, eye level for them, they want to be able to see but not see in that winter time. If you're cutting so much that deer almost can't see out and away, and you'll see this a lot when you get into a dogwood thicket or an overgrown pasture where you have some great bedding in some of these spots, you'll get in there and you'll be standing up here like people, and you'll go, man, this is thick, man. This is so thick. I mean, there's no way to see in here. Drop down on your knees, and I found a lot of sheds doing this too. You get in some of those dogwood, pucker brush, thousands of stem count areas, and you drop down to your knees and you can almost see clearer through that. It's almost the illusion of thick by stem count, but when you get down at that lower level, instead of looking down through, it's geometry. I know we didn't all pay attention in school, and I didn't either. I wish I did, because this makes a lot more sense now. The geometry of looking downwards, you're looking at all these stems like this, whereas you're looking through these stems like this. So you follow what I'm saying? So if you get into a spot when you're cutting and you're like, man, I don't know, maybe I made this too thick in here, drop down to a knee, take a look at that, the way that you've cut in that section or that travel corridor, and make sure that you can drop down and be like, I have exit, or I have exit off my backside if I have stuff coming from in front of me, or maybe adjacent off of that. And as I'm laying out travel cuts, I'm looking at those spots all the time and making sure that I have avenues out of it clear avenues. I'm not talking, see through that kind of, summertime, it gets a little bit more challenging. Summertime, it might be looking like a little pinhole window. That takes a little finesse eye, but if you're looking at it in the winter time right now, it should be very clear and apparent. And then going back through after I cut, typically what I'll do, and I use this kind of technique a lot, is I'm working through a corridor, working into a bedding area when I'm cutting it. And what I'll run out of gas, never carry gas in with me to where I'm cutting. I'll go back to where I'm loading out from, four-wheeler, logging road, wherever, with my bar oil, my other saw, my gas, my saw box, all that stuff. I'll go back to my location where I'm stationed out of, we'll call it. I'll fill up, hydrate. That's another big thing. Always slamming a bottle of water between tanks of gas at a bare minimum. Don't have one on me even. Usually I'm drinking probably 2 per tank of gas. Definitely keeping hydrated. And then what I do is I get the saw started back at the four-wheeler, make sure she's firing right back up. And usually I won't run it dead out of gas. I can kind of tell when it starts spitting and sputtering a little bit, because otherwise it's kind of a pain to get them back going. And then what I'll do is on the way back in to where I finished, maybe I'll have left my helmet in there. Maybe I'll have left a couple wedges, wedged into some of my hinge cuts so I can see that visual orange. Or maybe I can see, obviously, the carnage when I'm cutting through a timber. And what I'll go back through is when I'm walking back to that spot with my saw running to start, I will cut the openings in that kind of transition going in through those areas as I go back through them to get where I finished, where I ran out of gas. That's one technique I've used over the years that's been pretty helpful with me. That way you don't forget to go back in or be like, oh, man, I got to get back down to that south end because, I cut stuff back in there in February and it's, June now and it's so green now and it's hard to see that now. Use that extra time when you go back and fill your saw up to get back to where you were to then do that. Gives you a few extra steps in the day, but it makes sure that you almost get that area finished and sweeped as you come out. Or same thing, only difference, you get to the end of where you were working on. Maybe you met up with another cut you did in a previous year or something, and then you can come back through and then cut your, your exits and other stuff on the way out, or finesse cut, I kind of call it. You might drop 1 or 2 more trees as you come in through it the other way. You walked, to the east going in, coming back out, going to the west, and you're like, oh, I probably should knock another tree down this way to do that or whatever. Or, I kind of see that stand location now that I'm talking about, so maybe I want to make an offshoot trail of that going down that little spur of that ridge there. So just a couple tips from the hinge cutting side of it going into this season. Craig comments in. So, man, I love this. Got the StreamYard fired up. Craig, hey, Craig, how's it going? Sorry I missed your comment. Trying to bounce between them, but hopefully everything next week will be through the stream or the StreamYard. So what's cool about the StreamYard, if anybody's watching on YouTube or watching over on the YouTube channel, is up in this corner there'll be the 100 Proof logo. Down in this corner will be the show, down in black letters, and then we'll be able to monitor everybody's comments and views and everything right up here in the top window. And it all comes hopefully through one service, which is really cool. That Facebook's coming through just fine now. Hopefully the connection stays better. That's one thing I'm trying to try to get. I'm still struggling with that, even with the little booster now. Maybe it'll work better if I run everything through StreamYard next week. That's one thing that I hope to kind of watch back on the YouTube channel and the other Facebook, the actual Facebook page for the show, and see how that quality held up with it. So, a couple unrelated things. I haven't had a pour tonight, which actually I probably should do. Quick little shameless plug, though. If anybody was checking out the video, oh, you can't even see him in this. I have a lot of these bottles that I don't know what to do with them. So what these are it's kind of blown up and Man, I can't even get it to focus on it. So what these are is with a internal light in them. Dress up really nice up on top of a bar. You can set them up, you know, areas like that, different areas. They make really good Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, or whatever. I've sold about a dozen of them so far. I have a bunch of bottles that I've kept over the years. Some really nice ones, some ones I've kept around for gifts for different folks. That's their favorite bottles that I got to get to them. Those are the ones that are here on the bar now. And since I posted that, I've had about 6 of them. So that people reached out about buying them. So a little shameless plug tonight. But on the plus side, I was able to do a little bit of trading, which is really cool about the whiskey community in our area. We'll do a little bit of hunting segue into the whiskey thing. And my buddy Keith that comes over and drinks with me is probably going to give me crap for popping this bottle tonight, but I don't care. We'll see. This is I had a Jack Daniel's number 27 gold label, which is allocated bottle from Jack Daniel's. Another buddy of mine had one, wasn't a fan of it, but I bought it because I'd never seen one, and traded it for this really cool Russell's Reserve Russell's pick. And the sticker on it is actually Russell Crowe from Gladiator. This is the Rochester Elite Barrel Pickers group that picked this one. And I love Russell's. I mean, I got a whole turkey shelf that I call the Rooster, whatever. So this is going to be my pop tonight for my pour. So quiet on the set for the cork pop. I don't think you can get much better than that for a fresh cork pop. And got to have a nice little pour. Bo says, great info. Thanks, Bo. Appreciate it. Yeah, habitat stuff. I'm ready to start cutting. I got some cutting to do this year for a couple clients. I am booking up very, very fast. The last 2 years, I've had to turn clients away. I have my own projects to deal with. I have a baby on the way. Me and my wife are due in March. So everything's kind of getting crunched down really close this year. So we'll see how that goes with scheduling. So evening, Derek. Podcast looks great. Appreciate it. And Derek says, I told you need to paint those. Yeah, I don't have the artistic skill for that. Your wife's more in that lane, Derek, and my sister's kind of more in that lane, but maybe I can talk my sister into painting a few of them and doing that with them. I think some of them look nice with just the labels on them. And then obviously nice backlit. This is one that's going to my buddy Gary, and then this one's going to one of my clients. This Wiseman one was one that he wanted. So yeah, bunch of cool bottles, and I got a whole ad online that if you got a favorite or you know somebody that's got a favorite, that's what I have kind of been running for that. So, and that list is going to get updated as the year goes on and stuff like that as stuff gets figured out. Don't lie, you have the autistic skill. Thanks, Derek. Yeah. What else? Another thing to be doing this time of the year, and we'll talk more about it, do some videos on it, is soil tests right now. This is a soil test kit. You can get these off of Amazon. I use Whitetail Institute pretty much for all my soil test kits. Why? Because it's super easy and super affordable to send them out. Very easy to do, especially if you have several to do. You can send them in one flat rate box, and it works out really good if you have a whole property to do, or you and a couple buddies get together. Pretty simple. You take your samples from across the field. They go in your little sampler bag. You label it up with your name, all that good information. You make sure your field data matches your sheet data that you submit with that field, and then do a rough layout of what you're going to put in that field, whether it's a cereal grain, maybe it's a 100 proof mix, and you say a Brassica blend or whatever you want to call it. But that's really key. This is our due year to do soil tests at the farm. So I'll be out there giving another how-to refresher video on these, probably walking it step by step through this. I got probably 30 of these in the basement, 30 or 40 of these, a couple for clients, and just trying to get that figured out going forward with it. Another thing that I recommend to folks now, if you haven't started one, is a journal. And what this will do is tell you everything for your field, for your specific years, what your planting dates are, all the above, to help you really narrow down what you might have going on with your field with issues, or what you planted in it. If you're like, man, that worked really good. What was it? When did I plant it? Everything like that. So everything from when you spray that field, all you have to do is put a little note in with it, and let you keep track of your fields year to year to year, for when you soil test, what you plant, when you plant, all the above. So, yeah, Eric, love you too, buddy. Yeah, I'll make sure I got that autistic skill working on the bottles going forward, man. So, but yeah, other than that, wanted to keep this to right about that usual 1 hour mark. Just trying to think of anything else we can throw into the conversation tonight. Guess we'll do a quick review on everything and kind of wrap it up for the night. So, big thing we talked about tonight is get some books, guys, for the new year. Harlow's Tree Guide is one I highly recommend. And then Craig Harper's book, Wildlife Food Plots and Early Successional Plants. This thing's a Bible. I have several copies of this for different reasons. One I have signed by Craig, and then one I use in the woods, and this one is my one that sits on the bookshelf as kind of just for show, or to let folks borrow if they need to borrow one. Getting your food plots ready, getting the layout, getting them amended after your soil test is huge. Making sure your lime and your fertilizer requirements are right for what you're planting. Get your seed selection in place. Got to get, like I said, I got to get some new chicory ordered because the mice ravaged my chicory that I had bought for my clover blend. Luckily, it was a small volume because it was just a test batch. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do all my test batches, or maybe the test batch will switch a little bit. And I'll keep the notes of that going forward. Trail cameras right now, getting your trail camera data, end of the season survivors, as well as maybe starting to crunch your 1 year data. We'll do a video, like I said, on everyone's kind of dubbed it the serial killer board. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of bucks, if you make it on the board, I hopefully end up getting a crack at them with that. And then whiskey, I haven't been buying any whiskey for the new year. I've been doing very, very good. And I'm sure my wife is very happy about this. But I did do a little bit of trading this afternoon and picked up this nice Russell's pick in a trade with a guy. Just met at a sketchy gas station with a KFC next to it, and swapped a couple bottles, and he gave me a handful of extra samples too as well, so which is really cool with the whiskey community as well. And then this is one of my little experiments right now. This is a nice old granddad bonded. This is my dad's daily drinker for a bottle, so to speak, or whatever term you want to use for it. His go-to bottle. And I got a bunch of Amburana chips. I don't know if you can see them floating in that. And I get a snickerdoodle kind of outcome when I do this wild turkey. So I'm curious to see what it'll do with a Jim Beam product like old granddad. So that's my little science experiment that I just started tonight. Derek comments in with says, still want to get something growing in that field at the hatchery. Is that test only for New York, or can you buy it and do the soil samples out here? Yep, absolutely, Derek. You can do this soil test, Whitetail Institute Soil Lab test kit. And all you do is I usually take a dozen to whatever samples across the field. I have a little soil probe that I pull them out with, but you can just go out there with a little hand spade, garden spade, or a round point shovel. Get a 5-gallon bucket's worth, mix it all up really good. That way you get an average for the whole field or area you're looking to plant. Mix that all up, and then you fill your little soil baggie. I'll open it back up. Fill your little soil baggie that they give you, which ends up being, I think, like 6 to 8 ounces or so of soil. Actually says 1 pound of soil, probably because that's wet weight. But probably about a pound of soil goes in this little baggie. There's a little fill line in there. And then, like I said, you just fill out your data for it and just fill out what you want to plant in it. For first year planting, probably something like cereal grains, winter wheat, winter rye, something like that probably. And then maybe some annual or biennial clovers, red clover, crimson clover, something like that. Maybe you could get away with a little ladino or something pretty tolerant for a white thrown in there. But yeah, and then lime, of course, if you have a more acidic soil, and then fertilizers. And then again, man, if you got any questions with that, happy to help in any way I can with it. So, but yeah. Well, all right, everybody. I'm going to have a little sip of this. So, cheers to everybody at home if you're having a pour tonight and checking out the show. We appreciate it and all the support everybody gives us. That's warm. That's a fairly warm Russell's pick. Again, just opened too. But a really nice, deep, woody. It drinks older than like an 8-year-old. This one's a little over 8 years old. It was actually bottled the day before my sister's birthday. Really cool. Really cool. So, yeah. But, yeah, Derek, I'll send you information on that kit for sure, dude. I can do that right after the show. I got to send out a couple messages that came in during the show to my messenger, so I can definitely send that over to you, bud. But I want to thank everybody for tuning into this. If you are watching on Facebook, we would really appreciate it if you go over to the YouTube page, like and subscribe to videos over there. You can watch any of our old episodes over there. And hopefully with this new streaming program, we can now start uploading these episodes to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any place that you enjoy listening to your favorite podcasts on, to kind of bring out more viewers to the show and kind of help more folks. And that's the feedback we've been getting from viewers. So we want to give you guys what you want. So thank you guys so much for all you do and all the support. Hope you're having a great 2024. Feel free to give us any of your questions anytime. We will be at K&M this Friday for a live fresh crack and tasting. So if you want to stop out for that, about 6 or so is when we'll be there. Probably go live at about 6:30. We're going to be doing, I want to make sure I get this right. We're going to be doing a tasting of, oh goodness, what was it? Clyde Mays Straight Bourbon Whiskey 92 proofer. Really nice bottle, good price point. So we're going to be testing that out. I've never had it before, so I'm looking forward to it. So again, this Friday at K&M, we'll be doing a live fresh crack tasting at the store, and we'll be streaming across all of these platforms as well. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate the support. Love to help you with any questions you have. And we'll catch you all next time down here at the bar on the show. Take care, everyone. See ya.